Hello, grow your own with pace. That's practical actions for climate and the environment. It's midsummer, so many of our crops are coming up to harvest and we're needing to think about winter crops, what we're going to have to keep us going during the winter. Okay, well there's our first courgette, look, so we'll have that tonight. So they're coming into production. The peas there, you see, these are March 2 peas, so we're eating those. Behind there the beans are climbing well onto their sticks now. There's tomatoes, some celeriac there in the background, borlotti beans there, just harvested the broad beans and our potatoes and so on. So yeah, lots happening at this time of year, but we have to think about some of the winter crops, you know, putting in winter greens, for example, things like Florence, Fennel, Swedes and so on. So that's what today's about. So here we are harvesting our broad beans. We've been picking off these for probably about 3 weeks now, but they're coming to the end now. You see there's a couple left on that one. Actually there's quite a lot left on these still. They've done very well, these broad beans, and this is the advantage of the early planting in the autumn, is that we can now get this crop off, because I've got other things to go in here, some greens for example, Brussels sprouts and savoys and things like that to go in here. So these are all full, these pods now. I'm not going to gain anything more by leaving them, even though the plants look a bit awkward, that, isn't it? The plants look so nice having grown them up there, but it's time for them to be harvested. So another thing about, I'll dig one of these up rather than just breaking it off. So hopefully we might be able to, oh there they are, look. So this beans obviously are leguminous plants, and these are the root nodules here where we've got nitrogen fixing bacteria working away there, fixing nitrogen. So this is putting a lot of nitrate into the soil, and that's why it would be particularly good for our winter greens. Now I try and break these off. Okay, these are going to go on the compost heap, but I'm going to leave these in the soil so that nitrogen goes straight in the soil. So that's the big advantage of your leguminous crops. You probably all learnt about that in school but never saw it. The other thing we've avoided here is the black fly by planting the beans early. So out with the beans, in with the greens. This is the same piece of land that we had the broad beans on. I'm putting some savoy cabbages in along this side here. All the greens, fern them in well. This is just where the broad beans were. There's one of the broad bean roots, look, so I just left those in because of the nitrogen in them. So there. And then I'm going to put one more to go in there. I'm going to put some a row of Brussels sprouts in here. So these are then winter vegetables. Firm them in well. Just going to water those in. We were fortunate to have some rain last night, but I'll make sure these are well watered in. Okay, so we can harvest some potatoes, part of the early harvest. These are in flower now, these potatoes, so that means they should have some new potatoes on down there. And I want to make some space to put some leeks in, so let's see what we've got here then. On the edge there. Get a hold of that potato. Yeah, looks good, doesn't it? One more there, another one. Okay, so yeah, so we can put some leeks into this bed where the potatoes were. Okay, here's the young leeks. So these were raised in a seed bed, sometimes called pencil leeks, ideally the size of a pencil. I just trim off the excess roots there. So I've lined them up so that they're all similar roots. Right, so now water them in. Just water a little bit of soil in the hole and then leave them standing in the hole. Just get myself across here. Just one. So the hole means that the lower part of the leek will be blanched white. So we need to set the roots of the leek down into the bottom of the hole, maybe about 5 or 6 inches into the bottom of the hole. Washing a little bit of soil in so it goes around the roots. That's why I trimmed the roots off, so there aren't too many roots. Right, I'll work my way up this bed then. Right, so there's 65 leeks in. I just checked that the soil's covering each of, there's one there that it isn't, so I just put a little bit more water, wash a little bit more soil down just to check there. There's another one there, so just go over them again like that. So they'll look after themselves. They look a bit floppy at the moment, but they'll soon pick up, and that'll be an important winter vegetable for us. So here we are then, the longest day of the year, and we're going to sow our Florence fennel. It's a funny plant really, because if you sow it before the longest day, too early in the year, then it'll bolt to seed. But if you sow it after the longest day, then it forms those lovely hearts, which are great for stir fries. There's the seed, typical umbrella for seed, and it says you should sow them straight into the ground where you're going to cultivate them. But I'm going to sow them in these pots here. I've done this for years, so I know it works. So I just put a couple of seeds in each of these little cells, and I'll grow them on here, and then I'll be able to transplant them from these because the roots will do well in each of these cells. I'll cover those up. This is a mixture of soil and compost. Goes on top there. Yep, the other crop we can get going this time of year, the middle of the year, are Swedes, and like Florence fennel, they recommend you sow that direct into the ground, but I normally sow them into cells as well. Seems a bit of a fuss for a vegetable like a Swede, but the trouble is, this is a brassica. There's the seed, look. So it's a cabbage family, and the trouble is that they are very prone to the flea beetle. So if I put them straight in the ground, then there's a risk that a lot of them will be damaged by a flea beetle. Whereas if I do them in cells, then I can keep them above the ground and they don't get the same problem. And because they're in these cells, then I can transplant them out without disturbing the roots. So you can do them both ways really. You can sow them straight in the ground if you want, but some years you'll find that they'll be damaged. So these are two important crops for late in the year. Okay, lots of things are growing and producing food now, but what are we going to get late in the year? So right, I'll just cover those up. This is a mixture of soil and compost again, peat-free compost of course. That's an important point, that peat-free. Try and get peat-free compost. Okay, so I'll just water those in, and the other point is that I can get these going in the cells. At this time of year you tend to run out of space in the garden because everything's, got everything in there and it's growing and there's not much space. You're waiting for the first crops to come. But this way they can stay in there for 3 or 4 weeks, and I've got them going, so, and then we can transplant them out. Hello, this is Grow Your Own with Pace.